Everything to be in
I'll get the
the.
football coach to call.
I have, but that it's a commitment as well.
Well, no, because you can schedule.
Heather's from there, but
Yeah, but it's almost there hurting. So once you get on the list, I have a buddy that's been doing 45 years of wrestling. He can't.
Okay, it's 1 o'clock. I'm going to call February 7th Board of Commissioner meeting to order. Today, we're going to start out with a prayer from Commissioner Heberling and the pledge by Commissioner Lee.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity as elected officials and concerned citizens of our community to gather together and go over things that need to be taken care of in our county. We ask for your guidance as we make those decisions and vote on different things today in our meeting. We thank you for a free country, and we thank you for this time together. We ask you to bless this time together in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Leslie, roll call, please.
District 1, Chairman John Block.
Present.
District 2, Commissioner Roger Ballard.
Present.
District 3, Commissioner Gary Heberling.
Present.
District 4, Commissioner Bill Sarkella.
Here.
District 5, Commissioner Christine Lee.
Present.
District 6, Commissioner Evans Ehart.
Here.
District 7, Commissioner John Moody.
Here. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
At this time, seeing no additions to our agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda today.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Lee, support from Commissioner Moody to adopt today's agenda. Is there any discussion related to the topic? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Adoption is agenda is adopted. At this time, if there are no corrections to our meeting minutes from January 17th, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Ballard, support from Commissioner Heberling. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. You received your correspondence from Jody through email yesterday. We will move into commissioner reports and we will start with Commissioner Ballard.
All right, last week I was up at Argyle, the worst travel night of the week. Went up there and gave my report. They heard a presentation regarding a township website by Schumacher Technology Group out of Lansing. That's something that all townships are eventually, probably sooner rather than later, going to be required to have as a website. So they're working on that. They increased their elected appointed pay by 2% and advertising for mowing bids in March. City of Marlette, I was there last night. They are proceeding with their pool house project. They had a little snag there. Their bids came in much higher than anticipated, so they had to do a few amendments to their design. So they're back on track and working on that. They've been awarded a grant. So fire hydrants, they've had some issues. They had 12 in town that were out of order. They've gotten 3 of those repaired. They have a total of 137 fire hydrants in town, which that number kind of blew my mind. But that's something that's very important to say. I think that's about it, other than committee work reports.
Thanks, Roger. Gary?
I'll pass and I'll bring up what I need to bring up in our committee reports.
Okay, Bill?
Buell Township, working on delinquent taxes, a couple of issues there, signed their brine contract and looking at some permits for building in the agricultural area, considering possibly no charge. Carsonville up their trash pickup and everybody's dealing with fuel surcharge opportunities, obviously, with what the cost of fuel is. So they're trying to negotiate with that. They did get a fire department grant there for helmets and shields. And they were also discussing potential of selling water. Apparently, there's some people in the area that want to purchase some water from them. And then Applegate, last night, their fire department got a grant as well. They paid their streets bills. They picked up a lien on a property. So the courts here finally authorized the property for them to tear down. And great report from them on the road commission. They were very pleased with the work the road commission did on their streetscape this year. And they give a lot of kudos to Rob Pauls and his crew. I just wanted to make that part of our minutes today. So that's all I have for commissioner report.
Thanks, Bill. Christine?
Between the last meeting and this meeting, I attended the Peck, Elmer, and Elk Township board meetings. Elk was kind of impressed because I got there on that very snowy night. They didn't think I'd be showing up. Their biggest concerns, and it seems to like all my townships and my districts and my cities and whatever, is blight. They just don't know which way to turn. They're trying to, it's blight. I also attended an LEPC committee emergency meeting, and I met the people there, and we were talking about places Mr. Hellman handed out a sheet. I had to stop thinking his name. And he was places that has a lot of fertilizers or a big thing of batteries and whatever. And some other places were asked for him to check it out because they weren't on that list so that they would know. MTA has a meeting tomorrow, the Michigan Township Association. I was asked to attend that or invited. I also told all my townships in the city and the village to check out the county webs page to make sure that all their information on that web page was correct, to get that updated. And I also told them to make sure that they take that survey that we have on it. And that's it.
Very good. Thank you, Christine. I myself have had no meetings with townships since our last BOC meeting. I'm headed to Marion Township tonight. That's all I have. Evans?
I attended Carlswell on January 17th, Carlswell Council. Their biggest concern seemed like, and it's going to be on their agenda every time, is they're going to be talking about their EMS staffing and funding and how to fix that and get that going, keeping EMS there and keeping everything up to date. I was told by Med Control Board that they have a lot of EMS and paramedics coming down the pipeline and do what they need to keep those staffs in our area for the foreseeable future. And that's what they're working on. They also have the ice rink that's done in town that just finished that people are starting to skate on. That's new. I don't know about today, but over the weekend, I think there's a lot of foot traffic was on it. They also said that I think they're going to start doing also research for possible dispensary coming into town as well. I attended Lexington Township on the 19th of January. Nothing new out of the Lexington Township Council. The Lexington Council, Town Council, they're still discussing buying the property next door. They're going back and forth right now with the price of the property and just research to see if it's worth the buy. And that's it for that.
Thank you, Evans. John?
I attended the Fremont Township meeting. Dan Lowers was there to answer some questions from the public. And I don't know if you know about on Monday of this week, Judge Rathel overturned the election commission's decision for the recall. On the second petition, I believe there's 2 more out there.
Yeah, there's 5 total.
5 total. So there's still a few more out there. Went to Melbourne last night and they're just going over some procedural stuff. Trying to get their meetings more in line with kind of like how ours meetings run. So they're working on some procedural stuff. They've got their signs that they needed to get put up, and now they're looking to get one more speed limit sign. So that's about it. I have Work Township on the 15th and Fremont on the 16th coming up.
Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, everyone, for your commissioner reports. At this time, Nathan, your administrator report, please.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to start by saying some of you are aware, some of you in the room may not be. Former Administrator John Males passed away late last week. He was a good man. Everybody that you talked to in the building that worked under him, a lot of respect for him. Very, very nice, very humble. He was with the county from 2003 to 2011. So we also had a dedication that took place yesterday for another county employee, Diane Stewart, who had passed away as well. I think the ceremony was phenomenal. The attendance was good. The speakers did very well. Commissioner Ballard was there and spoke as he worked alongside her for many years. She was, they were able to raise some money or some donations, and there's a bench now across from the prosecutor's office. She worked in the prosecutor's office for most of her career, so it's a little, it's got a little plaque on the front that kind of lists her name and her years that she was living here. So it's a nice gesture. We should be receiving our proposals for RFP for our health insurance brokerage firms by late this week. The deadline's the 9th. So we had to send that out for bid. Kind of comes on the heels of our audit just going out with the RFP. So we're going to get, we'll sift through those, we'll narrow it down, and then we'll get a recommendation together for you guys with what we're going to do with our health insurance brokerage firm. I will be attending the Sanilac Township Association meeting, Sanilac County Township Association meetings tomorrow to discuss a variety of topics. A couple things came up. They reached out. One of the things that Christine mentioned in regards to blight came up, and I know I talked to Christian Block on this. I've talked to the sheriff on it. I reached out to the sheriff as well, and I think he's going to attend alongside me because there is some things that can be done at the county level, but mainly it really involves the sheriff's office doing some enforcement things for the township. So I know they were looking for what the county could do. And one of the things I'm going to caution them, and a lot of the research I've done, is they probably don't want to get into losing control. And each township is going to have some individual issues. And really what they need to narrow down with their ordinance is what issues they're trying to combat specifically. And I did talk to a couple of the township officials, and it sounds like some of the blight ordinances are just out of date. They just haven't been reviewed in a while. Things have changed. There's other things they need to address. Procedurally, there's things in place that they just wouldn't do anymore. So hopefully I can get that message through to them. They can make some changes. We can talk to them about how the sheriff's department could assist them if they wanted to contract to do some additional things with them, because some townships currently do that. They do contract with the sheriff's office. We just would like to make that public to all of them at that time. So and then this Friday, we're gonna, Finance Director Christy and myself are going to be meeting with the ARPA oversight consultants or the relief fund in regards to those funds, and make sure we just have everything documented correctly and everything is in place for how they need it as we move forward in the audit. So make sure we're maintaining compliance with all those things. Okay,
Very good.
that's all I have.
Nathan, on the topic of the county's involvement in blight, essentially it's the sheriff's department is a resource that the municipalities can contract with essentially for enforcement.
Correct.
Right. That's all I had. Any further questions for Nathan?
Do you know that perhaps there's a generic type of ordinance that they could put together that would cover the needs of all the townships so they don't have to keep reinventing the wheel?
So it's funny you say it. So MML has on their website, they have some generic ordinances. I went to the link and it was a broken link essentially. So I emailed the lady, she sent me what was supposed to be there. So I do have those and could share it with the townships, or I could share it with you guys. There's examples specifically for like different topics for what you want to address with the ordinances. And they give, it's nice because there was like specific ones for individual towns. Like there was one, you know, for Ubley, there was one for Vassar. I mean, it's different towns throughout Michigan, but you can essentially, I guess the template's there to follow. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Yeah.
That's been a problem forever. Everybody has something different, or they can't enforce it.
Right. And I think that would be the concern with the county taking too much involvement, is there's going to be some specific issues within maybe some of the cities that aren't in the townships and vice versa, depending on where you're at. So
It can get expensive quickly trying to have enforcement and then dealing with the legal ramifications of it.
Okay.
I know when I was down in some of your townships, the issue they had was when they did use the sheriff's department, it was when they were available, which usually entailed overtime. And it just put the price up to where they just couldn't afford
they
to
couldn't afford it.
have them even go out. So what's the time and place of that meeting tomorrow? Township.
It is tomorrow at Liberty Lanes at 6 p.m.
6 at Liberty Lanes. Okay. I don't know if I can get there or not.
This is the Sand Lake Township Association, so I presume all township board members are invited from across the county to attend that. Is that related to the MTA? Does the MTA have a representative at that?
That's the one, the MTA, that's what it is.
Okay, all right.
I don't think they've been real active right along. Is
They
that
just
correct?
start,
And they're
yeah,
just trying
they
to get
just
back.
started, yeah, to get back into the swing of things and the whole
I need
meetings more
another
often.
meeting to go to, so. I lost 2 districts.
All kinds of time.
Very good. Any further questions for Nathan? Hearing none, we will move on to public comments pertaining to today's agenda. Are there any public comments pertaining to the agenda today? Seeing none, at this time, we have a presentation from Trudy Bowers, our county treasurer. Trudy, welcome. It's not every day we have you on our agenda.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
Yes, good afternoon. It's nice to see. And I like what you've done with this room. It's beautiful now. I think you've done a great thing. And if I may, I did speak to Glenn Phillips just this last week about a blight issue he had. And there isn't really anything that the county that I knew of that could address it, but I told him, I said, you can issue blight tickets, and eventually that is an allowable item that can be added to the property taxes. So if that gets added to the property taxes and goes delinquent because that taxpayer has not paid that, I do pay that unit for that blight ticket. So in my delinquent amounts that I pay out, just so you know. So blight is, I agree, the issue, and everybody's got their own ordinances, and it's nothing that the county has ever been involved in. And then that's a good idea to help them get a uniform, maybe like a uniform ordinance. But like you said, there are units that have different issues. There was a piece that I foreclosed on that had been blighted, and the village had cleaned it up and charged that parcel for that cleanup bill, and it was humongous. You know, it was $9,000. And so when I foreclosed on it, that became part of my minimum bid. So it elevated that bid to where, you know, it wasn't going to be sold. So anyway, that's the treasurer's take on the blight issue. I just wanted to I handed out the duties of the county treasurer. There is a down about fourth paragraph. It says the office is responsible for accounting of all revenue, investment, and monies in financial institutions, sales and distribution of dog licenses. Don't forget your dog license goes up after the end of February. To local units of government and the public, certification of deeds and other documents pertaining to tax histories and litigation. Also conducts the annual auction of taxable closed properties according to PA 123. Makes payments to pay off bonds, notes, and interest at various maturities. I had Roger talking to me today about an investment I have that matures on Thursday for the parks. So what I usually do is he talked to me about their needs coming up. Can I lock that up for a couple of years or a year or whatever term looks like the best deal going? I found an agency that is a 5% agency that I think we're going to go with that money. That was an investment for the parks, but there are, in the environment that we're in right now with the feds raising that rate substantially in the last little bit, they're supposed to be curbing the inflation, and that's by design, that's what they're doing. Hopefully, and it looks like it's starting to slow a little bit. So I have heard from my investment people that probably the feds are going to slow down as far as raising those rates now. So because that it is working what they're doing. So it's an important part of the job, the investments. And it has become a lively thing lately because I've been keeping to the shorter term investments just because of the increase in the rates that has been happening. You know, I don't want to lock in at this one because next week the Feds might raise the rate again and the rates will get better. We're seeing revenue increases in the investment lines in all of our villages, the parks, the senior council. I think last year we budgeted $100 for investment interest for the senior council, and they were up over $400 at the end of last year. So it's hard to budget that. I mean, it's always good when your revenues are getting more than what you planned, you know, but that's been something that has been a good thing. I took office in 2012 and interest rates were good then. And it's just been the last few years that they trickled down to almost nothing. It was common to have a 0.01% rate of interest coming on some of our banks. But that has made the job more interesting and a lot better in the last little bit here. It's the interest rates being high is good if you're investing money. It's bad if you're borrowing. But if it's helping the inflation, it's good what the Feds have been doing. If you look under the investments, I invest the idle cash of the county. Following the county investment policy and PA 20. I handed you a sheet that is PA 20. PA 20 gives me a kind of a parameters that I need to stay within. I can't risk any of the county funds in anything that is connected to the stock market. So it has to be a safe investment regardless. So nothing in offshore accounts, things like that. So we do a lot of certificates of deposit, a lot of commercial paper. We try to keep the portfolio pretty diverse in that respect. Our banks locally have been what I mainly target. If possible, I try to keep money in all of the local banks because those are my constituents. Those are my voters. Those are the ones that put me here. A lot of times the rates aren't great, you know, but we keep, like I said, a diverse portfolio so that we can, we try to keep the ball rolling. And so with the shorter term investments that I've been doing, it keeps me happy. And I hope you all received the investment report that Brandy sends out. If you have questions on that, please feel free to come on up. We'll sit down and we'll look at what we've got. And I think she gave you that other report that ties it into the ledger as far as what funds are invested where. And that's something that she does on a quarterly basis. Last year she was gone on her maternity leave, so I think we missed one or two, but she'll be back on track now and got that year-end one that's most important. But like I said, if you have questions on any of that, we have been looking at different banks and what they have available. A lot of the local banks have been offering a promotional rate, a 30-day, or I think one of the banks had a 4.08%, but it was only for new money. It was, you know, I can't take what's in my current accounts and move it to this CD and take advantage of that rate. So, but we're working on streamlining a lot of what we have in several of the banks. One of the banks we used to use, we're now at Eastern for our general fund and all of our checking accounts and everything. But we had some accounts at Huntington that we're currently looking at closing and kind of doing some housekeeping on cleaning those up a little bit. We do evaluate. We have a subscription to Robinson Capital that gives us bank ratings. They'll give us I can punch in a independent bank and say, and it'll give me a letter grade for that bank as far as their different levels of their profitability and things like that. So we enjoy looking at things like that, but different rating companies have different ratings. So you kind of have to look at the broad spectrum.
Can I ask a question, Trudy?
Right now, go ahead.
By looking at that, has that ever inspired you to change where you have investments because of the ratings that come out through that firm?
No, it is not.
Okay.
The local banks that we have around here are all highly rated. I want to say an A- to like a B+ and a B. We don't have any banks, I don't believe, that we're invested in right now. I'd have to double check, but we don't have anything as low as a C rating. Most of our banks are highly rated. We are capped to a standard as far as Standard & Poor's. My investments have to be A1, P1. There is something that one of my investors asked me to look at in our investment policy, because that's not the only rating vehicle there is. There was another one he asked if we could get put in our investment policy, and I will make an appointment with the policy committee on that and see if we can tweak that investment policy a little bit. On the back side, you can see I have to understand the accounting principles. The GASB principles I did research that in the county government guide that I have, and it did say that the interest must remain with the fund in that account. There are accounts we have here where the general fund does absorb the interest, like trust and agency accounts, things like that. And I believe Christie transfers those amounts at year end, anything those accounts have earned into general fund. So there are some things that general fund does get besides the regular money in a general fund account. I prepare the budget. The investment reports, of course, come from Brandy. We have very strict controls in our office and here in the county as far as cash handling. Our departments all bring us the transmittals, usually on a daily basis, some of them on a weekly basis, but we make sure that everything that matches their reports, and our deposits go in the bank every day. Brandy gives them receipts on all of their transmittals, and everything's got a balance. In my own office, we have a couple of cash drawers that must balance. The person who runs the report and balances the drawers hands that report and that cash over to Brandy, who puts that in, but Brandy's not the one who takes it to the bank. I'm the one who takes it to the bank. So we're very careful about cash handling and making sure that there is little room for fraud. And that's our biggest thing. You know, we have to guard constantly against what we've had for fraud. We have had some checks duplicated for the medical care facility that we have put steps in place to guard against those coming out of their banks. We have what's called positive pay. So every time there is a check run, that file is uploaded to the bank. Here's the check number. Here's the amount. If there's anything deviates from those numbers, the check is refused at the bank. So we have put these policies in place that are helping things like that. It's surprising the scams that are out there and the fraud opportunities. I've always said, if these people would use these gifts they have for good, it would be amazing. But we constantly have to watch what's going on there. Okay, the Property Tax Act. We're coming into the busiest season in the treasurer's office. Dog license season. The last day to buy it at regular prices is February 28th. On March 1st, the units, the townships are all done collecting the 22 taxes. they'll be bringing those rolls in and they'll start the settlement process. That takes till early May to get that done. And then we're out of the woods about that time. So, and on to the next thing, which, as far as the foreclosure auction, I have hired a company now. Our auctions are all online as of this last year. We, it's amazing, the amount of revenue that was gained, through the online auction. This company handles 74 of the 83 counties. It's called Title Check. They do all the 74 counties in the state of Michigan. It's all online. It got me away from inspections of meth houses and other dangerous and contaminated areas that I figured I was no longer doing. We got away from large amounts of cash coming in for parcels that people were purchasing, and got me away from that. I'm feeling very comfortable with our plan that's in place right now. It still requires a lot of, we do the posting in October for the taxes that are in forfeiture, but we don't do any of the lockups and the.
So does that get more people to bid on it, raising the price of the property, is what you're saying?
Yes, yes, and they have to register, and it's all on a website, pictures that we've taken, all the documentation that's necessary for that. And they do all of the legal end of it, which is
Save you time.
beyond me, huh?
Saved you time.
It does.
I work well.
And I don't, they changed the laws so much. I needed help with, addressing the different steps and stages. We're still waiting on our litigation though from the federal Supreme Court to see how we tax moving forward. And they said at my conference this last week that by July 1, we should have a decision. The federal Supreme Court is ruling on a case in Minnesota, which will trickle down to all the pending cases we have in Michigan. They're talking about how retroactive we may have to go back to give back excess proceeds on parcels. The statute is, they thought 3 years at the federal level. So we'll still be dealing with claims. Probably if it goes through, we'll deal with claims 3 years back. And I have tried to just keep all the tax foreclosure funds waiting for that. Because we have no idea what's going
Might be July, that's gonna happen.
on. By July 1st.
That's been a long time coming, hadn't it?
Years. It started, I believe, in 15. So we're waiting on that, and hopefully we need to see that light at the end of the tunnel. Because we've tweaked our legislation so that we do offer a claims process for excess proceeds now, and that was part of it. So we're hoping that that will be enough so that we can move forward in our taxation. But the worst case scenario is the taxation would be, basically we'd have no leverage of foreclosure on our taxes. So, and it would go back to, I'm sure, like the county would file a lien against the property if the taxes weren't paid, but there'd be no taking. So hopefully, if you have any questions, I know I've rambled on a little bit, but as far as I wanted to cover a lot of the investing that I do, we're enjoying the environment that we're in right now with the increased revenue to everyone. And if you have any questions, anyone, Bill, for me, that I can help with.
Is this going to be the first time you're going to be running the online foreclosure auction?
That was the first time
Okay.
last year, and I have signed a 5-year contract. So I plan to continue that. We ended up selling all of our parcels. We have nothing left. There was one that went to the October no minimum bid auction. There was a little piece, vacant piece up in Forestville, but we ended up with that sold too. So I was happy with the outcome.
Yeah, so it'd be a lot more efficient.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Yes.
Rudy, to your point, I think with the company that's handling that process, I was thinking back in case any of the other commissioners get approached about this through any of their towns. I believe it was Commissioner Block had one of his villages reach out, and they had questions in regards to the inspection process of foreclosed properties, and that company handles that as well, right?
Yeah.
So, and they indicate that when they post
Yes.
when they make a posting on the property.
We go out in October and we post the property saying this is headed for foreclosure. And this last year, I think there was 150, maybe more, maybe 200 properties that we post just to say you're close. Foreclosure is coming April 1st. So we do that. Steve Kelke goes out with me. I've hired him as a contractor. And he goes out with us and we post the properties. If someone's home, we hand them a packet saying, here's your options, here's what's happening, here are the dates you need to know about, that kind of thing. But then after we foreclose on April 1, this last year, we foreclosed on 17 properties. Then this company goes out to the foreclosed properties and does the inspections for me and locks it, secures the building if there's buildings, that kind of thing, but takes more pictures of what is there and gives a commentary on the condition of the property. Sometimes they're not ideal, and they're very frank about something that might smell, something that is basically a tear down. And so I'm glad with that. They put it all out there on this website. And you can just have to register and you can go in and look at any of their 74 counties are listed in there. Mhm.
Good report.
Thank you. Did I take too long?
Nope, you're fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trudy. Okay, I see nothing in 13A, 13B, or 14 as far as appointments to committees. That'll take us into general resolutions. We have a resolution to honor the Michigan Association of Counties for its 125th anniversary. Bill, whenever you're ready.
Resolution to honor the Michigan Association of Counties on its 125th anniversary. Whereas Michigan's 83 county governments play a central role in the proper delivery of and oversight for critical public services for the state's approximately 10 million residents. And whereas Michigan county governments are led by board of commissioners who are elected from their communities. And whereas the State Association of Supervisors of Michigan was formed by representatives of 16 counties on February 1st, 1898 in the Senate chamber of the Michigan State Capitol in Lansing. And whereas the association's name was changed to the Michigan Association of Counties on July 17th, 1969. And whereas the Michigan Association of Counties is the oldest association representing local governments in Michigan. And whereas 48 of Michigan's 83 counties have had at least one of their commissioners or supervisors prior to 1968 serve as president of the association's board of directors. And whereas the association created the Michigan County's Workers' Compensation Fund in 1979 to help county members provide workplace safety and injury insurance services to its employees. And whereas the association created the Michigan Association of Counties Service Corporation in 1986 to partner with service providers to help counties save money on everything from health insurance to telecommunication services. And whereas the association hosts two major conferences every year to bring together county leaders for briefings on trending public policy issues and to hear from state newsmakers and others. And whereas the association's advocacy work in Lansing and beyond has advanced the interest of county governments and the residents they serve. And whereas no fewer than 5 association presidents have served or are serving in the Michigan legislature in the 21st century, a testament to the culture of public service inculcated by the association. Therefore, be it resolved that Sanilac County wishes to commend and honor the Michigan Association of Counties on its 125th anniversary year on this 7th day of February, 2023.
Okay, we have a resolution by Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Heberling. Is there any discussion related to the resolution? Hearing none, Leslie, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Heberling,
Yes.
Chairman Block,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Ehart,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sarcella.
Yes.
Resolution is passed. Thank you, everyone. This time we'll move into committee reports and we will start with Commissioner Moody.
All right. On the 17th, I attended the planning commission meeting with John, Commissioner Heberling and Chairman Block, just to see kind of what goes on there. And I do plan on attending some other ones too, just like keep up and stuff like that. I attended my DHHS or the Black Repair Standing one. Nathan and Christy, they're looking to hire a new program manager. They gave us a little update on their COVID. I believe there was no employees and maybe one resident, I think it was, might have had it, or they were just getting over it. So that was really nice. And they're looking at using some ARPA funds to put new flooring and do some maintenance around the buildings. I attended the 911 board. Director Don Cubic gave a little synopsis of the calls that came in for the 2022 year. 145,000 non-emergency calls came into their center. 12,000 911 calls came in, including 60 of those by text. They have a new system where you can actually text to 911. And then 36,000 actual calls for services went out of there. And I want to just commend Director Dawn Cubitt and her amazing staff for what they do for this county, because that's one of those jobs that's kind of a job that not a lot of people want to do it, but it takes a special person to do it. We had a policy meeting today. We just reviewed a few policies regarding budget shortfall, mileage policy, promotion and selection procedures, employee recognition, overtime, and a meal allowance policies that we've kind of tweaked a little bit. So we'll be seeing those here shortly. And that's all I have.
Thank you, John. Evans?
January 17th, I was at the Board of Public Works with Commissioner Sakala, and we elected the new chair and vice chair. And that was, head chair was elected Joel Wyatt, vice chair was Sweet. And we also voted to change the time meetings from 3:30 when the meetings are to 3 o'clock. And it is on the same days as Board of Commissioner meetings when we have them, but if the Board of Commissioner meeting happens to go and hit at 3 o'clock, we can just wait. No problems there. On the 18th of January, I went to the Human Development Commission. The first meeting was just the audit of their program for the past couple of months, and wasn't more on a financial audit as it was a company audit on how they run things and their programs and how they do it. And they scored high on all the areas of which they can. And I guess in the past they weren't scoring that high, but again, this was my first meeting and they have improved tenfold according to the auditor's report. On the 26th, I went to Community Collab. I again just touched base with all them and all the different heads that sit on that board. And there's a big speech from the person from the Thumb Community Health Department and all the services they all now provide. Again, not much from there. On the 31st, I went to the Med Control Board. They're working on getting a satellite location for Stanislaus County Med Services for paramedic training there. Again, all would be online. People can attend it again via Zoom, which is huge for them, I guess. And then, like I said, for the Carlsville Council that has the EMS staffing and funding problem, that the Med Control Board is aware of it, and they're working on keeping EMS and paramedic staffing in the county and working on the funding as well as that. And that's it.
Thank you, Evans. Good report. I myself had a policy committee meeting this morning with John. You covered that pretty well. I also had a personnel committee meeting this morning where we dealt with an issue in the prosecutor's office. Also, they'll be coming across everyone's here's desk. Some of the departments we have in the county, like our sheriff's department, if they have a vacancy, they need to fill it immediately. So we have a memorandum of understanding with those departments. So those were reviewed by personnel today. And you'll see those come up before the full board shortly. We also had a planning commission meeting a few weeks ago. And in that planning commission meeting, we reviewed a 5-year parks plan for Lexington. And we also reviewed some PA 116 applications for the county. That's all I have. Christine?
I give my report earlier.
That's okay. That's all you got?
Yeah.
Bill?
DPW was already touched on. At this time, we do not have any projects, but we're still going to continue our quarterly requirement for meetings and kind of like Transportation Board sat on my first committee meeting there. They have 12 full-time staff now and 1 part-time. We're looking at a couple other possibilities as well, but that's the largest staffing I think I've seen over there in quite some time. Obviously, buses are an issue. Of course, you're trying to get some new buses coming and hopefully they'll see some results there. And then we had some discussion as well in regards to future funding, because eventually that program there, unless the state steps in, we're probably going to have to be looking, or even some money coming from the feds, doing something locally as well. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bill. Gary?
January 17th, John covered the County Planning Committee. I'm going to cover a couple more things that he didn't. We had a lot on our agenda that night. One of the things, we're going to offer up a MSU citizen planner training. And we elected our officials that night for that board for the next year. That Scott Kenny is our chairman, Vice Chair Gary Heberling, Secretary Denise Bush, and our Parks and Recreation Representative Jan Cargill. And one thing that did come up that we're going to write a letter to, we were actually requested or asked if we would write a letter from for the Parks and Recreation from Roger Ballard, requesting a letter of support for a grant that they're applying for Sunlight County Lexington Park. This grant is to be replaced a pedestrian bridge connecting. We've already received information on that and some of the drawings, and Jan Cargill is going to put the letter together. We're going to adopt the letter and approve it at our next meeting. January 19th, we met as a steering committee. The steering committee comes out the planning commission committee, and we talked about housing. One of the things that come up about housing that probably you've seen but not seen a lot of is people are building pole barns now, and in that pole barn is a house. And a lot of young couples are loving to do that because they get the best of both worlds. The only problem is when you build a house like that and a barn together, guys like me that buy side by sides and things, we can't hide them and tell our wife we've had it for 6 months. So but that happens. I didn't report on commission reports because I only had one. Custer Township met last week. They're still going over their setbacks for solar. I did email one of their township people the setbacks that Watertown Township already has in place. And what they'd like to kind of do is the townships have all the same setbacks. So the meeting did turn out good, and I guess they did adopt most of what Watertown has. Nathan sent out an email late last week, I believe, from the Michigan Economic Department to Corporation. And he had sent that also to Deckerville, Marlette, Sandusky. I'm missing one. Peck. And it's a great incentive. It's money being put out by the CDBG funding. And I believe it's for the state, the complete whole state is 750,000 to 2 million. Is that correct? And 4 of the towns and the parks and of the cities in Satellite County are the 4 that I just mentioned. And I did cascade that information also in my report to the Sandusky City Council last night, and what they do with it, I don't know. And I believe they have to, this can be rolled out mid-February.
Yeah,
They have 60 days to
they would have to
get involved with it.
apply for that.
So that encompasses town squares, parks, playgrounds, amphitheaters, and streetcapes. I'm not sure exactly what streetcapes are, but we're going to cover that. And last is
Our personnel committee meeting, John covered that, what we did this morning. So end of my report. Thank you.
Good report. Thank you, Gary. Roger?
Last 31st, I guess it was, I had a board meeting at the mental health. There's currently 3 new commissioners went and took a tour of the facilities down there. Their non-degree staffing positions are all filled. They have several master's degree positions open. So if you know anybody looking for work in that field, send them their way. They are looking at potential loans from Region 10 for parking lot and improvements to the Stoliger building. And there was, I don't know if you saw it in the San Luis County News, if you didn't read it and still have the paper, there's a very good article in there on foster care in San Luis County that really brings to light a lot of things they deal with. The iPads, I believe it was 80 plus iPads have been distributed to all the law enforcement in the county, and those should be fully functional very soon. Parks, we meet tonight. I've been working on some of the finishing touches on the Spark grant application that Gary mentioned. We have received letters of application from various groups for that project. That will be a new wider pedestrian bridge. Hopefully this grant goes through, and 2 handicap accessible camp cabins in Lexington. What else have we got? We did receive our final payment on the ADA bathhouse edition. There was a $20,000 grant that Representative Wheeler had acquired for us. And we put that towards a 10 by 10 unisex ADA bathroom facility, sidewalk. We also went ahead and did the roof on the whole building. And that total project was about $36,000. The grant was $20,000. So that really stretched our park money. The Evergreen Sewer Extension, which is partially ARPA funded. Been working with the engineers on that. We've talked to a couple of contractors, suppliers. We didn't feel we could get that project completed in time for camping. So we've moved we will put that out for bid in July and get that started at the end of the next season. And hopefully supplies will be better and it won't interrupt our camping. Our other alternative would be to shut down that portion of the park. I think that's about it. I have a DPF meeting on Monday.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, everyone, for your committee reports. See no unfinished business to come before the board. We'll move into new business. We are going to start with NFA 044-22, approval of 2023 remonumentation grant application.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the 2023 remonumentation grant application in the amount of $80,637, Monument 57 Corners, and further appoints the following to complete the 2023 grant year. County Representative John Militex in the amount of $4,838. Grant Administrator Leslie Hilgendorf in the amount of $2,500. Surveyors John Militex, Ben Tank, and Charles Coop of Atlas Surveying for the total amount of $68,400. And peer group members Ben Tank, Charles Coop, and Russell Brown for the total amount of $2,184. Further authorizes the board chairman sign the necessary agreement.
Support.
We have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella with support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion on the topic?
Yes, Leslie, it's my understanding you get so much a year each year from the state for this. Yeah.
Yep, the 80,000,
And it may be years before we finish it up. But that
Yes,
could.
we're looking at probably another 30 years
Okay.
roughly before we're finished. There are counties in the state that are already in maintenance.
Mhm.
They're done. They're just now maintaining with their state money.
Yeah.
And we are still trying to finish.
In 30 years, you could still ask her that same
30
question.
years,
Really?
my grandkids will be. 30 years, I won't be around. I don't think.
Remind you.
All right. Is there any further discussion related to NFA 044-22? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 008-23, approval of 2022 current claims.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2022 identified on the accounts payable report dated January 31st, 2023 for the general bank account in the amount of $31,050.97.
Or I have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella, support from Commissioner Ehart. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 009-23, approval of 2023 current claims.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2023 identified on the accounts payable report dated January 31st, 2023 for the general bank account in the amount of $122,418.38. Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Moody. Is there any discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 010-23, budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves amendments and establishes the following accounts as listed.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Heberling. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 011-23, approval of database management printing services.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the 2023 data management printing services agreement and fees and further authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary documents.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Lee. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 012-23, approval of agricultural appraisal agreement equalization office.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves an agreement to provide agricultural appraisal services between the County of Sanilac and MAC Assessing Services LLC for 3 years with an increase of 2% for each year at a cost not to exceed $40,840 for the 2024 study, $41,660 for the 2025 study, and $42,500 for the 2026 study, with funding from the equalization budget, and authorizes the board chairman sign the necessary agreement. Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 013-23, approval of commercial and industrial appraisal agreement.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the 2023 agreement between the County of Sanilac and White Oak Appraisal for the purpose of providing commercial and industrial services at a cost not to exceed $27,983 with funding from the equalization budget, and authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary agreement. Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Ehart. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. That concludes new business. At this time, I'll entertain general public comments. Are there any general public comments today? Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, clerk, treasurer, administrator, everybody's here. I'll introduce myself. Some of you who's interacted with in the past. My name's Phil Pavlo, and I'm here today on behalf of the Riverbend Wind Energy Project that's being planned out in Speaker and Fremont Township. I was brought in just a few weeks ago to handle parts of the government relations work, not just locally, but state and federal, kind of map the plan and position this project for success. So while there isn't probably anything wind related in front of this body right now, I think at some point in the future, it's going to connect. Certainly treasurer is going to see elements of this. The clerk has, I've already interacted with the clerk on some questions regarding the recall and the court process. I'm not here to give you an update on the project. I'm simply here for a introduction and to let you know the process is unfolding. So if you want to get engaged in the township game, I had a commission meeting tonight in Fremont, one again on the 15th. So that work is in front of the proper jurisdictions right now. There has been no approval. We're just at the part right now where they're reviewing the site plan and the special land use for those two townships. In total, it's about a $475 million project. And obviously there's a revenue impact for not only county government, but the 4 school districts that would be participating, as well as your villages and all of those items. So I'm willing to give my cell phone number out to anybody who needs any contact. I left my car, it's in the car, but my number is 810-531-9735, around all the time. So anything comes up, any questions, planning, revenue. Otherwise, I'm happy to lend what I've learned about the project so far. And Mr. Chair, if there's any questions, I'm happy to
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pavlo?
let you get on with your program.
Seeing none, we appreciate you being here today to introduce
Thank you
yourself.
for the opportunity.
Thank you, Phil.
Any further public comments today? Okay, seeing none, I see no need for closed session or approval of closed session minutes. Nothing further to come before the board. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make it. I'll support it.
Roger, was that you?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Ballard, support from Commissioner Lee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 2:00. I planned it that way, by the way.
Literally.
Thank you, Trudy. It was nice having you.
On the 12 meeting.
I was watching, trying to keep it at that hour. I didn't know if that was going to happen or not.
Here comes the word.
What's that?
Looking back at, this is just